Welcome to Chapter 3 of our What Makes Me Me autobiography. And in Chapter 3, we're going to be learning about an anecdote. So, your overall instructions are just to give specific details that are written in a really creative and fun way that are going to help your reader really learn who it is that you are and want to continue reading about you. It can oftentimes be funny, but it really does help the person to like you a bit more. It endears them to you. So let's learn about that and some questions that we can ask to help think about what kind of anecdotes we might tell. So, every year, about a month before Easter, I started to learn a new Easter speech. When Easter came, my mother would buy me a new dress. The dresses were always big, fluffy, and for some reason, they would itch, especially around the arms. My pastor would ask if anyone had an Easter speech, and all of the kids would line up to speak. My mom would encourage me to go to the end of the line because she knew that my speech would likely be the very longest. As I stepped up to the microphone, I took a deep breath and began my speech. After the first minute, people were already amazed. 2 minutes later, I noticed this little girl, also in her new Easter dress, just staring at me. I kept on reciting my speech. The pastor leaned over the altar to get a better look, and after a full 5 minutes, I said, Amen. The entire church stood up and clapped for me. I smiled from ear to ear, then went and sat down. Until next year, I thought. So the little girl that you see speaking at the microphone in this picture, that's me. And the story that I just told you is an anecdote. An anecdote is a short and interesting story about something that has happened in your life. Chapter 3 of our autobiography will be an anecdotal story about something that has happened in your life. My Easter speech was something that I was expected to do every year. My mom and I never really talked about it after the first time. She just reminded me that it was time to start studying and memorizing my speech, and I took it from there. When I thought about what story or what anecdote I wanted to tell you all, I asked myself a few questions. What values was I taught as a child? What rules did I have to obey? What expectations did my family have for me? As you prepare to tell your own story, I want you to talk about these questions with your family members. So, this is homework for you. Talk with your parents, your family back home. Ask them to help you to answer these questions so that when we come together, we'll be prepared to discuss our answers together and even write some of them down. So let's think about family values. What are the ways that your family expects you to treat other people? What does it mean in your family to be a good person? Is it being kind, helpful, respectful, showing love to other people? What does your family expect you to do without even having to ask, really? What are the rules in your family? What are the rules in your house that you must follow? Maybe it's no jumping on the bed. Maybe it's no fighting or pulling your sister's hair. Maybe it's that you can only watch TV on the weekends or after dinner. What are the rules in your house? Next, what does discipline look like in your house? What are the consequences for when you break a rule? What happens when you do get in trouble in your home? How are you punished for breaking the rules? Maybe it is no phone, or maybe it's that you don't get to go to that special place you really wanted to go to. What are the consequences for breaking the rules? And what about rewards? What happens when you do something good? Maybe does your parent give you a little bit of money, say, here you go to the store, get yourself something nice? Or do you maybe get a gift? What happens when you actually follow the rules? How are you rewarded? What are your family's expectations? So, what does your family expect you to do without being told? And I realize this says YouTube you to do. But what does your family expect you to do without being told? Maybe it's that whenever your mom says dinner is finished or it's almost finished, she's thinking you're going to help put plates on the table and make sure that everybody has cups. Maybe it's that when you guys are doing laundry, your mom expects you to fold your clothes or to help carry the laundry basket to and from the laundromat. Maybe your mom or dad expects you to um, help cook dinner. You know, the person that you live with, they're like, all right, you can make the rice. What is it that your family expects you to do? I want you to think about specific stories that have happened in your life about all of these times. Is there a specific time when you got a reward and that made you really happy? Is there a specific time that you went a place and maybe you treated someone not so respectfully? And so your family said, hey, you need to do better at this, or your mom punished you. Have you ever had a shoe thrown at you because you were doing something that you were not supposed to do? I want you to think about these different stories that have happened and kind of talk to your family and ask them, can they remember a specific story that would show your values? So I gave an example with my mom expecting me to give a speech on Easter. What's your story? And I think, you may be wondering, why is this important? Well, stories are how we learn about those who lived long before we were born. And stories are how we share some of the most important messages that we know. A good storyteller can draw in a huge crowd and have them hanging on to every word they say at the edge of their seat, waiting to see how the story unfolds. Stories teach us lessons that we're able to learn from other people's mistakes, and sometimes we can even laugh a bit. So I want you all to think about your grandma telling you stories, or your uncle telling you a story, or maybe it's your brother or your sister telling you a story. Sometimes those stories are funny and lighthearted, and sometimes those stories are serious and they're meant to help you to understand things about the world as you grow up. Talk with your family about the stories that have happened in your life, um, and just what stories maybe your parents have been hearing over their lifetimes as well. I hope that your conversation with your family goes well, and I hope that you hearing my story about my Easter speech helps you to think of stories in your own life. Best of luck.